about the biggest mistakes people make with dogs. But more than that, I want to talk about dogs in New York City right now because there's always several of the parks that they're having a problem with leptospirosis. And leptospirosis is not only deadly to your dog, it's deadly to you. So if your dog gets lepto, it's going to be screwed up. You're not going to know it until it's too late. It's good. You're going to the emergency room for sure. And it will just tear apart the insides of your dog, and it'll do the same to you. It's deadly to mammals. It's very bad. It's a very bad thing. Now you can go to the vet and you can get a shot for leptospirosis, but it only covers, I think, 8 or 9 of the strains. And so it causes a huge problem. And like I said, it's deadly to your dog and it's deadly to you. So you won't know it, that your dog has it, until it's too late. It's going to tear your dog up. And if you have children or even you, it's really bad. It's bad. It's real bad. So you shouldn't be taking dogs to the dog run anyway. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make with their dogs. They think that, oh, I'm going to socialize my dog. Well, you're not going to be doing it after the puppy is away from the litter. They don't get better social skills. There's no reason to be doing this. It should be hanging out with you, not some dog mock fighting. You're just teaching the dog to mock fight. To fight. Remember, mock fighting is the same body language as an actual fight. So people that fight, you practice fighting and then you test your skills. That's what your dog's doing. So there's all kinds of terrible things transmitted at these dog parks. Just terrible. So you want to stay out of dog parks with your dog, and not only because of physiological problems, illnesses, parasites, but because of behavioral issues too. Okay, now let's move on, and I want to talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make with their dogs. And I see it all the time, and I see it with puppies especially. People not using a leash. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Leashes are used. Remember, the leash is also called a lead. They're used outdoors and indoors. And they're your number one training tool other than the crate. Anybody that thinks that they're training their dog and they're going to do a good job without using a crate or a leash, you're a fool. You got a puppy, you're letting him roam around the house, look out the window. Looking out the window, you're a fool. You're training that dog to just have so many issues. Separation anxiety, aggression to people walking up to the house. What's the matter with you? Think about it. It's nothing like you. And that's what I'm talking about. You're not any favors, and it's an injustice. It's unfair to look at your dog as anything other than a dog. It's so wrong. But, people, you look at those big soulful brown eyes and you're like, oh, how could it not be like me? It's nothing like you. It doesn't ponder thought. And I know this is going to hurt some people. If you want to sit here and tell me I'm wrong, you're in the wrong place, just go away now. Just go away now. You're just going to get banned. Like, what are you, a child? I'm going to tell you the truth about dogs is that they cannot experience the emotion love. And that's a fact, because love is a complex human emotion. They don't experience any of those complex human emotions like love and jealousy. It's dog behavior. You're seeing something totally different. Your dog that's wagging its tail, it can like you. It can really like you. But it can't love you. Dogs respond. And they respond to everything around them, and they respond to you. If you're exciting the dog and it's jumping around, it doesn't love you. It's excited. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. So keep it in check that, like, love is something human beings, like, we love the dog. We lose the dog, we're just, like, emotionally broken. It's horrible. Your dog? No. Pass away, your dog doesn't even know it. It has no idea of its own mortality. I know this hurts. I know it hurts, but I'm just telling you the truth. So your dog can definitely like you. Can definitely like you and like you a lot. And since love, the term love really doesn't make sense when you're talking about a dog. Think of it more in the terms of respect. If your dog respects you, that's great. That means that your dog sort of loves you, but you need to stop thinking about the dog in human terms. It's mammalian, but it's not really like you. It doesn't think, it just responds. I know this pushes people away from my channel, but I think it's so important that even if it pushes somebody away and they think about it over time, maybe it'll start making sense. So it's important for me to talk about, because looking at the dog in an anthropomorphic way, you're just causing problems. You're just causing problems. Don't trust that dog. You go into the store and you think you're doing the dog a favor by letting him roam around the house and get separation anxiety. I guarantee you, that dog bites, you're going to get rid of it. That dog gets a real bad case of separation anxiety. The dog always gets labeled stupid because you gave it everything except what it needed. And that's what people say, I gave that dog everything except what it was needed. It needed training and discipline. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it because training, either you pay somebody like me to get the dog conditioned, right? Or you got to do it yourself and you don't know how to do it, so it ends up being frustrating. You don't have the time for it. It's a problem. It's a problem. We got 4 to 6 million dogs dying every year, and people thinking that their dog that is excited loves them. And it can't. It can like you a lot, but dogs that are aggressive, they're aggressive around their owners. They're responding around their owners. As soon as, I get them away from the owners, they stop responding like that. Does that tell you something? Shouldn't that tell you something? You're screwing the dogs up thinking this way and letting the dog sleep in your bed and thinking that, you loving the dog is being helpful. It's not. It's not. There's no reason for a dog to be leash reactive. There's no reason for a dog to be aggressive, and aggression is the number one problem with dogs. It is. That's the number one behavioral issue with dogs. So thinking that these little things don't matter, if the dog sleeps in my bed, how could that matter? It matters a great deal. You confuse the status of the dog when you do that. You should never let your dog sleep on the bed or let your dog on furniture of any kind. It's all poor on the floor. That's a dog. It's a subspecies of the wolf. You confuse the status of the dog, start seeing itself as an equal. You might love the dog, but you're loving it the wrong way. Dog doesn't love you. It can't. That's a complex human emotion. I said this yesterday. I said, it can like you. You can like ice cream, but you can't love ice cream. Love is this really deep emotional response you have for something. That's not ice cream. It can't be. You don't love ice cream. Your dog doesn't love you. Your dog likes you. You like ice cream. And somebody was trying to argue the point no, you can really love ice cream. Oh, so if you don't have ice cream, you're going to cry? Then you're a child. You have a childlike view of life. That's it. Because trust me, losing a human being, your friend, your lover, your wife, your brother, your husband, you would give up ice cream in a minute if you could have them back. You don't care about ice cream. Same thing would be true. You lose your dog. It's tragic. I can't imagine. I'm thinking about my dog Ike right now. It's difficult, okay? It's difficult, but your dog, if you pass away, your dog is not going to sleep on your grave, and that's bullshit on the internet. That's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. Your dog just moves on. When I go pick up a dog, and it's with me, it's not thinking about the owner. really respond until it sees the owner or smells the owner. They don't sit there and ponder thought. But, you know, I've had owners, here, do you want to take this? It has my scent on it. You're an idiot, okay? You're an idiot. Like, you think that, oh, the dog has to smell me or else it's going to... That's the reason why your dog is so screwed up, because you have this view of canines that doesn't really exist. They're not like that. And the thing of it is that I find really strange is like, when I say this, your dog is incapable of loving you because love is a complex human emotion. And we have so much more gray matter than the dog. The dog has, like a big dog has a brain the size of a lemon. There's not that room for that emotional shit. And I say this, it bums people out, but you should be happy. You should be happy that your dog doesn't get this great sadness. And don't say your dog gets sad, because I, as a professional, I've never seen a sad dog. I've only seen sad people to project shit onto their dog. As soon as you get the dog away from the sad person, dog's acting totally normal. You can take a person with depression, you can put them in whatever environment you want, they're still gonna have depression. It's a fact. Dogs don't get depression. They don't have these psychological illnesses like human beings. They don't have this. And don't talk about separation anxiety. That's something totally different. That's something you did to the dog. That's more about muscle memory. And when when I start working with a dog with separation anxiety, they start getting better. You create that fucking problem for yourself, and you create that problem for the poor dog. That's not a happy dog. Remember, the dog that's barking, lunging, biting, going to the bathroom inside, tearing shit up, that's not a happy dog. But it's not an indication the dog is depressed, okay? That's a human condition. That's not, depression to your dog, right, would be like, you don't take it out enough. Because any dog you can excite real easy. I've never seen one you can't. A person's depressed, how do you excite them? Have you ever had depression? I have, and it sucks. You could say, well, hey, let's go do this. And then the person that's depressed, it's like, okay, and they go along, but they're not. You can't get excited about anything. You don't want to eat, you don't want to go outside, you don't want to do the things that you normally do. Your dog is never depressed, because your dog, you can always get excited. And excitement is not like I'm not going to say it's not like for a dog, it's just like a physical response, because the dog isn't cerebral like us. It responds, it doesn't ponder thought. So you get the dog excited, it's running around, it doesn't give a shit. You get it around another dog, it's going to get excited for sure. So all these things that people make this mistake of, like, they use their experience as a human to train the dog. That never goes real good. Not using a leash is foolish. Or just recently I did a Skype with somebody, and he was telling me about his girlfriend, who just sounds like a moron when it comes to dogs. She's supposedly smart, and I've seen this. I've known people with real high IQs that they can't wrap their head around a canine. And he said she's very bright, but that she's like, no, I'm not gonna use a crate with the dog. Dog's a year old. It has Pika, and Pika is a dog that's eating undigestible stuff. You train the dog to do this, the dog just starts doing it, and it starts eating your couch or your socks, and that's deadly. So that's nonsense, and thinking that your dog is going to think of it as like jail is just stupidity. Okay, that's a stupidity, and you didn't train the dog right. If the dog doesn't like the crate, it should. You start doing that when they're puppies, even an older dog. Fuck, I had Merlin here. He hadn't been going in the crate because he had separation anxiety, was making a mess in the crate, barking, whatever. He's fine in the crate now. So, you want to discuss that your dog actually loves you with somebody that actually works with dogs for many, many years. You're a fool. And if you want to bring up scientific proof that your dog loves you, let me tell you something. There's all kinds of internet stuff. There's all kinds of stuff on the internet that, you know, that they want you to believe something. They want you to believe something really bad. And the mammalian brain is the mammalian brain, and there's similarities in all us mammals. That's a fact. So say you take a scan of a human brain, and somebody's like a mother with her child, and you can see activity in the part of the brain because oxytocin's being released. You know, you can see activity, and you know that the mother loves the child, okay? So you do the same scan with, like, say, a dog. You might see activity in that part of the canine brain. You might see some activity. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to put it in the context of it's the emotion love. It's more or less like, okay? There's like things in common that all mammals have is like the will to survive, the need to keep the young safe, stuff like that. You know, you want to protect the young. So you're going to see activities, but think about it. Think about the emotion love. And when you've been in love with somebody, how deep that emotional state is and how complex that is. Your dog doesn't have complex stuff. It doesn't even have language. It doesn't have a birthday. It doesn't even understand its name. Its name is used to release the dog or to get the dog's attention. That's it. I've done exercises where I'm telling Tonka, just making up words, and the dog's doing what I want. Why? Because the dog, he has no language. He's listening to my tone. It's a fact. I'm sorry that this, it's childish of anybody that like really cannot handle these facts, because they are facts. And when you see stuff like on the internet, oh yeah, the dog, like it's just like a human, it experiences love. They're telling you what you want to hear, one, which is not good. And really, think about it. Think about it. So what? So what? You could find the same activity in the brain with a rat, or, you know, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you might see problems if you're comparing a human to a bird, right? Because it's two different kinds of brains, but birds have a higher neural density than like a mammal. So it might be a smaller brain, but I'll tell you something with birds. There's a lot of birds that they stay together with their mate for life. You don't see that with dogs, right? You don't. You don't see that with most mammals, do you? And humans, it's debatable. See what I'm saying? So if you said any of the animals really can experience an emotion like love, it would probably be an avian species, not the canine. But still, when you're talking about the avian brain, still doesn't have that complex thought process that we have. You could teach a parrot that this is a blue cube. You could say blue cube, right? So it might have some things about language that other birds can't pick up. Or you could teach a raven to, that it can figure out real quick that it has to pull the string up, hold it down with its paws, keep pulling it up to get the meat. But it still doesn't have that complex thought that a human being has. Every animal on this planet is unique. And I'm not saying that the dog is a piece of shit. I'm not saying the raven's a piece of shit. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that we're better. I'm just saying that we're all unique and different. And individually, human beings, we're all unique and different. But putting an anthropomorphic view on a non-human animal, you're not helping the situation at all. You're absolutely not. Thinking that the dogs have that same emotional state as you is ridiculous. When you see that dog jumping up and down, wagging its tail, it's excited. it can like you. I'm not saying that it can't like you. My dogs like me a lot. And I might even say, as a human, oh, that dog loves me, right? Because I'm using a word that I use to describe something. Like you might say, I love ice. Oh, I love ice cream. But you really don't love ice cream. So don't get offended if somebody says your dog can't love you. It's just a fact. Your dog has no jealousy. And people get really confused with this. Like, there's two dogs and they get in a fight right when they're around the owner, right? And you're like, oh, this dog was jealous, so it attacked the other dog. No, it was resource guarding. The dog looks at you because its status is confused as a resource. That's all it is. That's all it is. Sorry, that's the way it is. You shouldn't be upset. And if this upsets you, and you can't even just like think about it, but you have to sit here and argue with the professional that works with dogs for many years, you know, and I can weed through what's on the internet and say, well, that's bullshit, right? Like, I know when the positive reinforcement food trainers are saying it's science-based. It's not. It's a bastardization of science. Operant conditioning is about the positive, the negative, and the alleviation of both. So for them to say you can use purely positive and it's science-based, it is not. It's a bastardization of operant conditioning, and it's not even taking into consideration that there's this like social hierarchy with the canine. There's none of that. And you can just do a positive. Well, that doesn't make for a good citizen in the human world. You know, good canine citizen in the human world. And you're going to find all kinds of stuff that's BS on the internet. If you want to look at something, if you want to look at stuff about wolves, there's all kinds of craps about wolves trying to make it sort of like slanted towards one way, right? If you want to look at any of the wolf studies, look at the studies done in Austria. They seem like they're more realistic about stuff. So there's a lot of words being thrown around, right? There's a lot of words being thrown around trying to rope people into this notion that you can train a dog in a purely positive way. So they're sort of tugging at your heartstrings, saying that the dog is like you. And if you want to use any of the countries, like say Germany, where they no e-collars, no pinch collars, those are the countries where lots and lots of dogs are put down every year because they don't have those tools to be able to get a dog there's some kind of negative behavior. You can't even use those tools to get the dog to stop. Now, I'm not saying most of the work that I do with a dog with, like, you know, severe problems, like if it's an aggressive dog, I'm not using an e-collar to get the dog to quit. But then I'm using an e-collar to condition all the commands in so the dog functions quicker. When I'm working with an aggressive dog, it's pretty much just leash corrections. That's it. So there's a big problem that human beings were smart and we're arrogant and we think that we know how it is. You can't like step outside of yourself and say, oh, well, it's wow, I'm almost out of gas. You can't step out of your I'm going to go get gas real quick. You can't step out of yourself and say, well, shit, I hope I don't run out of gas or else I'm fucked. Step out of yourself and say, well, it's not really like that because everything, it seems like, has to be like, you know, you, the human, and it's just fucking not. So take that to heart. I'm gonna go get gas and I'll probably live stream on the way back from Walmart. Okay, so hang on, Jack, you're gonna be removed. Yeah, okay. I'll live stream with y'all later. I hope some of that made sense. You're right. People watch the Disney Channel and these ridiculous stuff that is just, that's not how it is. That's not how it is. I'll see you in a bit.